Hello there, I'm Michael Gibbles with Fiddlershop.com, and welcome back to Michael Explains It All. Nothing at all. This is the Pirastro Violino episode, which is just Italian for violin. Anyways, before we get started, I want to apologize that I know these videos are very long-winded and they take up a lot of time. I'm sorry that those are minutes and hours of your life that you'll never get back, but I do take it very seriously. And I do want to do the best that I can, but also have some fun and talk about the strings, really get into the weeds of comparing them against other sets of strings, because there's a lot of strings out there and it's hard to know, are these worth it? Are these a good set of strings? Who are they for? We're gonna get into all of that. The quick version, if you want just the sound clip and you got other stuff to do, I know there's like amazing content on the sidebar of YouTube here, just like all this stuff. Just ignore that for a minute, all right? You just stuff those feelings, all right? Just shut it down. Like all those terrible coping mechanisms that shouldn't do in your real life and in relationships. Just apply that to all the distraction and beautiful videos that you probably see over there. Okay, so we're just here. Okay, so the quick version is good. Wasn't that productive? Therapeutic, right? All right, just that one's free for you. The quick version is these are a very warm, gentle, mellow set of strings. They're a very low tension set of strings, so they feel great on your left hand. They're very easy to push down. With the bow, it's a very soft playing experience. It's not going to be a loud playing experience. They're very much on that mellow side. And so they're great if you have a bright violin or very shrill violin. Violino strings really can help warm it up and make it a very soft, just warm, cozy experience. It's like when you go to the beach and you can just wedge yourself, make a little mold for yourself in the sand and just kind of really, maybe you don't go to the beach, maybe that's a bad analogy. I realize it's October and much of the world is cold and snowy, and isn't that terrible to think about? Anyways, I'm sorry. Maybe it's like, you put on a warm sweater and you're just like, oh, isn't that cozy and soft? And that's what violino strings are. Kind of. Don't expect a lot of sound. Obviously, the higher tension strings are going to be a little bit thicker too. The violino strings they're a little bit of a thin strings, and so that's how they can be lower tension and still be at concert pitch, of course. But it's not a lot of sound. They're not like a soloist kind of string. However, interestingly enough, they have the same core as three other of Pirastro strings, the Eva Pirazzi Gold and Obligatos, and yet they are a third of the price of Eva Pirazzi Golds if you get the expensive G string, and like about half the price of most of the other the premium sets of Pirastro strings for violin, of course. Are they as good as those? Obviously, no. They're more geared towards sort of a little bit beginner to intermediate playing sound. However, they're not just a beginner set of strings. There's lots of low tension beginnery strings that are just kind of there. They produce a sound. It's nothing great. Violinos are definitely a step above that. So they're a little bit in this medium price range. And what I'm going to do now is compare them. Well, first I'll play them for you so you can hear them, and then later on we'll get into comparing them against Tonica, Dominant Pro. What else have I got? Eva Pirazzi Golds, Obligatos. Some of them are going to be closer than others. Some of them, obviously, you're going to be like, well, of course, if you can afford Obligatos, why don't you get those? But for everybody has a little bit of a different reason for buying strings, and so hopefully we'll explain if violino strings are right for you. Let's get into it. Okay, let's bring in Gibbles' grading graph, or the triple G, as I don't call it that. I just made that up now. That's not bad. So projection, these are very soft. You have to be very kind, very gentle with these strings for them to sound their best. Yes, you can press a little bit more. But they start to get gritty, or they start to, you know, there's a lot more artifacts in the sound that aren't really desirable. So it really just sounds best if you're just a little bit more of a gentle player. If you're a little bit more beginner, you're not used to using that much pressure, it's more designed for that kind of playing. They are on the darker side though, and some of that I think is just because it's a softer volume. Everything just sort of sounds a little bit darker. When things get really loud, a lot of things sound brighter, or more focused to in general. But I think at this sort of nicer, sort of just gentle volume, everything sounds a little bit darker and everything sounds a little bit more open too, which is the next thing. I do think of this focus as sort of that leading edge of the sound. If it's open, is more of a kind of just like a softer, like wall of sound coming to you, as opposed to focus has more of a or like really narrow, that, or like an E leading edge of sound. And these are very nice and very just it's very like that leading edge, very open. I feel like that's sometimes also described as complexity, or sometimes it's called richness, I think. And yeah, I do feel like it's a very sort of open sound, lots of complexity. So again, if your instrument is kind of that focused, whiny, kind of narrow sound, a good choice would kind of help bring things back over to the other side. Depth, they're not really a booming depth of sound. It's kind of like when you have if you have not a great set of earbuds or headphones or something, and you listen to a sound, like, yes, you can hear the bass, you can hear it, but it's not the same as when you have like a home theater or like a giant subwoofer of just that depth that's down below. So not incredibly deep of a sound. Here's where things get a little interesting, is that they are a quick response. Like, the response is very good, and they do respond really well to very soft playing, like very gentle playing, because that's kind of their MO is. Like I am using hardly any pressure at all, and they speak very, very purely. So that's a great thing. They're obviously not on the other extreme, where when you press a lot, then they kind of collapse. It's a little bit, again, I think just the last sort of parameter I have here, clarity, is that I think I'm judging this a little bit, is where I'm going to be harsh on them, is that, come on, when you press on them, then the sound collapses, like it gets really kind of fuzzy. It almost sounds like there's a buzz or something, like, but it's just. That's way too much fuzz for if you really want to dig in and go for it. So that's where they get that fuzzy sound. Under normal pressure, or if you're just playing nicely with them, that number would be a lot higher. But because I'm used to pressing a little bit more, I get that sound a little too easily. I was a little bit mean to them there. All right, let's compare these against some of the other popular sets of strings that are also warm and dark. Keep in mind, these are all done on this same violin, this Fiddlerman Artist violin and a 2-star bow. I did change rooms, microphones, and varying levels of facial hair throughout the time when I filmed these, so it's not as scientific anymore as I once hoped it would be. but I hope it will still give you a ballpark of what the strings sound like. Let's go. All right, wasn't that a lot of pretty colors? It's always really fun, just mesmerizing to look at. All right, so in closing, these are a great set of strings if you have sort of a brighter instrument that's kind of shrill, a little too piercing, and you just want to sort of warm it up, kind of open up that sound. It has a very sweet gentleness to it. It's not a lot of sound. If it's more ideal if you are a casual player, if you just want something sort of gentle, you just like to play at home with some friends, go to a little fiddle circle here or there, and you don't really want that, the world's loudest sound. Excellent choice. They're not necessarily a beginner set of strings. Those, because they hold their pitch very well. A lot of times beginner sets of strings, just the cheapest things you can find. Womp, kind of when you really wail on any, like the lower strings. Like if I had I'll show you. It really holds its pitch well. If I had a cheap set of strings, like when I pushed. And so these are very good. They're consistent sound. One comment I do hear a little bit about these strings, I can't verify for myself, I haven't played these for an extended period of time, is that the shelf life of these isn't amazing. It's a very good, that they last for quite a while, about what you could say is typical for Pirastro strings, but they maybe after 6 months or something kind of start to get a little more mellow and a little more dull, which is would be interesting if that's really what you were going for. You just put these on and they really get softer and more mellow than they do come right out of the package. So that's something to keep in mind. That's probably one little concern. That's like, well, they maybe don't last as long as some of the other more expensive versions. However, at a time such as now, where violin strings are getting insanely expensive, a set that's like $50, $55, something like this, is hard to find. And especially considering that they're like half the price of the Eva Perazzis and a third of the price of the Eva Perazzi Golds with the gold G string. That's a steal of a deal. And so it's hard to find a good set of strings that with all that kind of just threads the needle, so to speak. I hope that all this was helpful and that I didn't waste too much of your time, but I appreciate you watching this. I hope it was helpful. If you want to buy a set of violino strings, I've got a link for them in the description box below. And I'm also looking forward to hearing your comments in the comment section down there about your experience playing violino strings, or if you tried something before that and then you came there, or you played violino strings and then you've found the perfect set after that. All really good stuff. I love seeing this flow of conversations and people's own musical journeys. Thanks so much for watching. We look forward to seeing you at Fiddlershop.com.